Jada is back at it here to give everyone another fantasy football rankings video. In this particular video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rank a bunch of running backs. I have no rhyme or reason. I think it's a top 58 video. I'm going to do it by different tiers and just talk about things I think will happen with some of the running backs that I'm going to be ranking. So let's get started with my tier 1 running backs. Number 1, I think there's nobody disagrees with this pick. Christian McCaffrey, CMC is number 1. He's going to have a crazy good year. Although with Teddy Bridgewater being quarterback, I think the leash on Teddy Bridgewater isn't as tight as it was on Kyle Allen. So Bridgewater might have a little bit more to do with the offense, but I still think Christian McCaffrey is going to be number 1. Number 2, Saquon Barkley, New York Giants. I don't think they have anybody else really that can do anything. Number 3, here's a guy I'm really high on this year. He has some minor injury concerns, but I think he's going to be a top tier running back and he could be number 1 if McCaffrey dips off a little bit, and that would be Miles Sanders. First of all, you got his Boston Scott and Corey Clement. He's going to get a lot of touches, a lot of passes out of the backfield, and I think he's going to be number 3. Number 4, I have this guy ranked really high, and a lot of people don't, and that would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's going to be pretty good. They don't really have much else as options in Kansas City. You've got Darwin Thompson and Darrell Williams, but I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to go ham this season. Number 5, a guy I'm not really excited about, but you can't dispute the fact that he's probably going to be a top-tier running back, and that would be Ezekiel Elliott. Number 6, even though there's some concerns with injury and contracts, I'm still high on this guy. I have him in my keeper league. He's been on my team since he came into the NFL because I drafted him in the 16th round in 2018, 17, and that would be Alvin Kamara. He's going to be great. Yes, you have Latavius Murray there, but I think Alvin Kamara is going to have one hell of a season. And if this, he had some injury concerns last year in the middle of the year where he didn't really do a lot. I think the touchdowns are going to be there this year for Alvin Kamara. Number 7 would be Dalvin Cook. I think Cook is going to have a good year. He just needs to stay healthy. Make sure you get his handcuff or get another starting running back in case something happens. Number 8, I think this guy has potential to move up, even though he's number 8 already, and that would be Austin Eckler. I think he's a really good option on a kind of a weak offensive San Diego, or no, they're the Los Angeles Chargers now, or whatever they are. I think the Chargers will be really good, especially with a really productive Austin Eckler, and there's no more Melvin Gordon to take touches away from him. Number 9, one of the best running backs in the NFL as far as running the ball, maybe not catching the ball, that would be Derrick Henry. I think he's going to have a hell of a year. And the only really person that's going to take carries away from him would be Darrington Evans, and he's probably not doing any good. So those are my top tier 1 running backs. Here is tier 2. Number 10, Josh Jacobs. I think he's primed for a really good year. Not much to compete with in the Raider backfield. Lynn Bowden, he's going to be okay, but Josh Jacobs should get most of those carries. Number 2, Nick Chubb. I like Nick Chubb, and there's a chance that he could actually fall off and go into tier 3, depending on how many carries and what Kareem Hunt does, but I'm still putting Chubb at 11. Number 12, a guy who I think is a little overrated, but you can't dispute the fact that he's a good running back, and that would be Joe Mixon. Number 13, a guy I'm really high on. I know a couple other people that do fantasy podcasts and talk about fantasy are really high on, but I've been high on this guy since he was a rookie, and that would be Chris Carson. I have him on my Dynasty fantasy football team. I'm pretty solid at running back on that Dynasty football team. I have Mark Ingram. I have Damian Williams, who's obviously not playing this year. I have Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, and Chris Carson. So I'm pretty deep at running back, and that's kind of where my team is right now. Number 14, I have Kenyon Drake. He should be really good, but I love his backup. We'll talk about that person later. Number 15, I think this guy's going to come on after like week 4, and that would be Jonathan Taylor. And next year he might be a top 5 running back. Doesn't catch the ball as much, but he's going to run the ball a lot. Number 16, Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers. I think he could be higher. It just depends on if the Green Bay Packers want to run the ball a lot more. Number 17, a guy who falls on people's lists, and now he's moving back up, and that would be James Conner. With Big Ben back, I think that's a plus for him. And if Conner could stay healthy and play, 14 games, he could be very productive. Number 18, I think this guy will eventually be the starter on the Ravens, and that would be J.K. Dobbins. He's going to be crazy, and we have this thing in my Yahoo League where we get selected 2 random teams at the draft, and those 2 teams you can have as your last pick in the following draft a rookie. Well, I got Baltimore, and I got the Rams, the Ravens and the Rams, and I'm going to choose J.K. Dobbins for my 17th round pick. Could have went with Cam Akers, but I just like Dobbins a lot more. Speaking of Cam Akers, he's number 19 on my list. I just like J.K. Dobbins' style more than Cam Akers. Granted, Akers probably has a path to success more quicker than Dobbins, but I think Mark Ingram is eventually going to step aside, and Dobbins towards the championship round and the playoffs is going to be legit beast mode in it. Number 20, a guy I'm really high on, although some news today changes this guy's outcome, I think, and that would be DeAndre Swift. There's a minor injury concern there, but I really like Swift. He's going to be really good. He does have to compete with Kerryon Johnson, who will get carries, and then they signed Adrian Peterson today on the Lions. That may hurt DeAndre Swift. That might hurt DeAndre Swift a little bit, but I still think he'll be good. That was my tier 2 running backs. My tier 3 running backs, a guy who I'm not high on, and the 2 guys right away I'm not high on. Number 21, Le'Veon Bell. I think Bell's past his peak of any production at all. I think it's time for the Jets to get a new running back and new offensive players in general. Number 22, Todd Gurley. Just the injury concern there. Gurley used to be a beast, but now he's not very good anymore. He could do better, I think, but I don't see it happening. Number 23, a guy that actually probably will move up the list because I think he's going to be a pretty featured a lot more than people think, and that would be James White. Of course, the New England Patriots do have their 3-headed monster at running back. They could go with James White. They could go with Damian Harris. They could go with Sony Michel. Sony Michel has trouble staying healthy, though, so I think it's between Damian Harris and James White. And I think because of just things that have happened, James White should be productive pretty early on. Maybe, just maybe, Damian Harris at the end of the year gets more productive, but who knows. Number 24, a guy who, if he gets a chance, could really be something and move up to the top 10, and that would be Kareem Hunt. I look forward to him being on a team where he's the starter next season. Number 25, another guy who could move up, although I think he's past his prime a little bit, and that would be Melvin Gordon. I think the guy on the Chargers will be Austin Eckler. Or no, he's not on the Chargers anymore. My mistake. I think Philip Lindsay is going to do more on the Broncos this year than Melvin Gordon, but we shall see. Number 26, Raheem Mostert. I think he's going to be really good. He looks really good when he plays. It's just a matter of they have a lot of running backs on the 49ers, although they don't have Matt Breida anymore, so he could do really good. Speaking of Matt Breida, he is my 27th running back. I think he's going to take over the job from Jordan Howard relatively early and be the featured back on the Dolphins. Of course, there's injury concerns with Matt Breida all the time. Number 29, Antonio Gibson. The Redskins really don't have much of a running back. You've got Antonio Gibson, Bryce Love, and who the hell else do they got? They released Adrian Peterson. Of course, we know about their rookie that got in trouble. I can't remember his name all of a sudden. It's irrelevant. I think Antonio Gibson will be the starter. It remains to be seen how productive he's going to be. Number 30, with the recent acquisition, I had to move this guy lower on my list, and that would be Ronald Jones, Rojo. I think he's going to be good, but he just might not be as effective with the tight ends on the Buccaneers and the wide receivers on the Buccaneers. He might be, his production might be lower. So those are the tier 3 running backs. Tier 4, we're going to start out with David Johnson. Honestly, David Johnson on the Texans, I'm not liking the fit. I've heard, information that Deshaun Watson hates to pass to his running backs. That's where that's where he gets his fantasy relevance with those catches out of the backfield. So we shall see what happens, but I'm not banking on Johnson doing a lot this year. Although things could change and all of a sudden Watson could pass to his running backs, but I don't know. I think he needs Johnson to block so he doesn't get sacked as much. Number 23, we are going to give this, or 32, Mark Ingram. I don't know how productive he'll be this year, but if something's wrong with J.K. Dobbins, Ingram might be that bell cow back again this year. Number 33, a guy that I have to draft in my Yahoo draft today. I would say no later than the 11th round, probably the 9th round, and that would be Latavius Murray. I'm not really big on handcuffs, but I would always like to handcuff my number 1 pick just so I have the backup. In this case, I know I have the backup in Latavius Murray for Alvin Kamara. So, I mean, Latavius Murray, when he started last year and had, the opportunities, he was number 1 or number 2 running back. So that's why I got to go with that. Number 34, a guy that I think is going to move into a starter role on the Buffalo Bills and be legit. The only issue is Josh Allen's running will take away from this guy, and that would be Zach Moss. Number 35 was be Kerryon Johnson, obviously with Adrian Peterson coming to the Lions, and you got DeAndre Swift. It's going to take away from some of his carries, but I think he's going to be better than other bench running backs, other than a few. Number 36, a guy I'm really high on. The only problem is you've got a guy that's in the top 10, or the second tier, I should say, but Chase Edmonds. If something happens to Kenyon Drake, or they decide that Drake isn't as good anymore, Chase Edmonds in a small sample size was phenomenal last year, and I really like what I saw out of Chase Edmonds. Number 37, a new guy on the list, and that would be Raquel Armstead. I think he's going to be okay, but I don't expect much, but I got to put him in the top 40 simply because he's going to be the starter, and he should do something, although I feel that Gardner Minshew will be passing the ball a lot. Number 38, Ezekiel Elliott's handcuff. Tony Pollard, he's really good when he gets the opportunity, and I don't see that changing. Number 39, a guy that's hurt right now, but I think once he comes back, he should be okay, and that, of course, would be... Bear with me just a second here. I'm trying to figure out where somebody went. Somebody is missing from my list, I just realized. And that would be, of course, David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears. I am looking for Treek. Oh, you know what? I skipped somebody. In between Matt Breida and Antonio Gibson, I believe I skipped Treek Cohen with the injury concerns with David Montgomery. I think that Treek Cohen will be relatively good. He's not a bell cow back by any means, but he sure can catch the ball in the backfield. So Treek Cohen is number 28 if I skipped him, and then 39 would be David Montgomery. I just don't think David Montgomery is that good, but once he comes back, I think you have to use him just because of Treek Cohen not being a bell cow back. Sorry about the mix-up there. My tier 5 running backs, number 40, Devin Singletary. As much as I like Devin Singletary, I just don't think he's that good on anymore. And Zach Moss will take over the role as the running back, although the primary running back on the Bills might actually be Josh Allen. We shall see. Number 41, I'm going to put Sony Michel. He's good. He gets hurt a lot, and the New England Patriots like to play a bunch of people at running back, so that's why he's down. 42, Alexander Matheson. He's going to be good, especially if you own Dalvin Cook. I would suggest getting him as a handcuff because I think those first-round backs, you need to get their legit backup. Number 43, Tevin Coleman. I think he's going to get a lot of passing downs, and that's why he'll be a little bit more valuable than most players. Number 44, Boston Scott. He's the only really backup on the Eagles, unless you count Corey Clement. If Miles Sanders misses some time because of the injury concerns, then Boston Scott could move up to the 30s, and I think he'll be adequate, but he's nothing special. Number 45 would be Duke Johnson of the Texans. I think he will play because David Johnson might not be that great and might not look great, and I think Duke Johnson will produce a little bit, but Houston needs to invest in a draft. It's weird how these running backs in the draft went to teams that already had a running back. Like, the Colts had Marlon Mack, and they drafted Jonathan Taylor. The Ravens had an old Mark Ingram, and they drafted J.K. Dobbins. The Lions, they had a concussed version of Kerryon Johnson. They drafted DeAndre Swift. And here, speaking of that, the number 46, Marlon Mack, I think Jonathan Taylor is going to take over. Might not happen until like week 3 or week 4, but Jonathan Taylor is going to be a beast, that's for sure. Number 47, this is a surprising one, but I'm putting him on the list simply because of injury concerns. with James Conner, and that would be Benny Snell. I think he's really good, very underrated, and maybe someday he'll sign with somebody else and be a premier back in the NFL. And then finally, my tier 6 running backs, and some of these guys are just guys that might make a difference if there's an injury or something like that. If Derrick Henry gets hurt, number 48, Darrington Evans could be really, really good. 49, I put Chris Thompson, simply because he's going to be the only guy that's going to be able to catch passes where he's at, and that I think is going to be good. I think he's on the Ravens right now, or not the Ravens, the Jaguars. I mean, you got Raquel Armstead, and that's pretty much it, so I think he's going to do something. Number 50, Jamal Williams of the Green Bay Packers. He always seems to get some touchdowns here and there. I think that's going to take a little bit away from Aaron Jones, so he should do something this year. Number 51, a guy I'm actually really high on, but with Benny Snell really looking good. Anthony McFarland might not be as valuable, but keep your eye on Anthony McFarland. Number 52, I'm going to put Philip Lindsay. I think eventually he might be the guy that gets the most carries on the Denver Broncos over Melvin Gordon III, but we shall see. Number 53, a guy I really like, but it looks like he's going to be in a crowded backfield on the Colts, and that would be Nyheim Hines. Hopefully he's able to get some carries per game, but behind Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor, he might be pushed aside here. Number 54, a guy that just signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that would be Leonard Fournette. Number 55, Carlos Hyde. He's on the Seahawks, and actually, Carlos Hyde, I think, is a guy that could move up to like the 30s, just based on the fact that he did really good with the Texans last year, and he might do good with the Seahawks too, especially if Chris Carson has some issues that he has to miss a few games. Number 56, A.J. Dillon of the Packers. He is a beast. He looks like the Incredible Hulk. I don't know how much time he'll get this year, but he certainly could be a fixture in that offense. Maybe not this year, but next year and the years to come. Number 57 on the San Diego Chargers, or Los Angeles Chargers, I guess. Justin Jackson should have some opportunities to give Austin Eckler a breather here and there, and I think he might make the most of those opportunities. And then the last running back I have on my list would be Darrell Henderson of the Rams at number 58. I mean, if something happens to Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson will step right in. I don't think Malcolm Brown will do anything. So there's my list. I hope you enjoyed it. Pay attention to these rankings, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. Again, these are my rankings, and if you're a fan of fantasy football and you love the fact that the season's about to start, go ahead and smash that like button. If you know anybody else that you think would be interested in listening or watching this video, whether they're a casual fantasy football fan or perhaps a super fan, go ahead and share the video with them. Don't forget to leave me a comment on choices that you really liked, didn't like, or what the fuck was I thinking in the comment section, and suggestions for other football-related fantasy stuff. And then, of course, last but not certainly least, go ahead and hit that sub button, subscribe to this channel, join the team, show your support, and be a part of something special. And J-Dev will return.